Hello and welcome. So good to be here with you this morning again. This has been an amazing and unique time with each other, and I hope that it has been valuable in a number of ways. I hope that we have learned and grown, and also that we have become appreciative of many things that perhaps we've taken for granted before now. I think that many of us are realizing just how much we took for granted before, and perhaps also how little we valued things that are of real value. And hopefully, we have had some time to have our eyes opened to those who are hurting around us, those who do not take things for granted in the same way that we do because they can't. Today we'll be talking about some of the realities in our world that I'm quite sure that you've been reading about or watching unfold. There is inequality, there is brokenness, there is need all around us. And there are people who are disproportionately experiencing all of those things. And so much of my thought on this comes from a man named Voddie Baucham. He is the Dean of Theology at the African Christian University. And I highly suggest that you take some time to listen to him. I'll be putting a link to one of his messages in the section below. But for today, our reading comes from 1 Corinthians 12, verses 4 to 13. Now, there are varieties of gifts, but the same Spirit. And there are varieties of service, but the same Lord. And there are varieties of activities, but it is the same God who empowers them in everyone. The manifestation of the Spirit is for the common good. For to one is given through the Spirit the utterance of wisdom, to another the utterance of knowledge according to the same Spirit, and to another faith by the same Spirit, to another gifts of healing by the one Spirit, to another the working of miracles, to another prophecy, and to another the ability to distinguish between tongues. And all of these are empowered by one and the same Spirit, who apportions to each one individually as he wills. For just as the body has many members, and all the members of the body, though many, are one body, so it is with Christ. For in one Spirit we are baptized into one body, Jews or Greeks, slaves or free, and all are made to drink of one Spirit. As we see very clearly here, God has made each one of us uniquely. Sometimes we use the word unique to mean uncommon or rare, but what it means is that it is unlike anything else. We are unlike anything or anyone else. We have different gifts, looks, backgrounds, skin colors, voice pitches, abilities. The list just goes on. And we can choose to let those things define who we are. But the Bible addresses this kind of thinking in different ways. There are those who try to divide themselves up based on spiritual gifts, but we're told that we can't do that. We need each other. Some try to divide based on whether or not they're circumcised, but this too is very strongly condemned. And in this passage we see another distinction made: Jews and Greeks, slaves and free. The differences between Jews and Greeks were very real. The Jews were God's chosen people, and they knew it. This was a distinction that was originally made by God because of human sinfulness. Before Jesus, as Gentiles or outsiders, we were like the Greeks. We could not come close to God. This was not just a made-up distinction. This was real. But we see that something amazing happened. Because of Christ, we are invited to be members of one body. Regardless of our race or our social standing, we are made one in the Spirit. There is so much more than simply not fighting or not being racist or not looking down on those that are less successful or less wealthy than us. Christ's goal And what should be our goal is oneness. The same idea and word that is used here is used to describe a marriage relationship, or the relationship that Jesus has with God the Father. It is a complete and full reconciliation, and we are told that Jesus has already done this. What we need to do is not to try and create it for ourselves, because we can't. What we need to do is recognize that Jesus has already done it. It is true that we are already one, even if we don't recognize it. We are called to live in the truth of Jesus. And part of this truth is that we are called to be one. This oneness does not ignore our uniqueness. In fact, it recognizes just how necessary it is. We must be conscious in our lives where we ignore the unity that Christ desires and has created. Is it the gifts or abilities of others? Is it age? Is it race? Is it economic status? Where do we violate the unity that God has created? Let us ask God for His help and take action to mend this disunity. This has nothing to do with a political or a social agenda. It is a truth about God and the will of God and how He has created His people. He has made us to be one with one another in Christ, to love and accept each other just as Christ loves and accepts each one of us.